Good morning and welcome to Get Arrow, Get Secure. I'll be your host, a guest host today, Pete Curcio. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Arrow Security, and Mike Blangiforti, who ordinarily does the show, is out on assignment. I want to talk to you about something today that I'm very passionate about, and that's security for children in general. As a father of 3 young daughters, it's very challenging sometimes to keep our kids safe. Unfortunately, because of my experience in law enforcement and years of working inside the jails, I've learned firsthand about some of the predators that are out there and some of the pitfalls that your children may run into. I'm going to run the gamut now because I have my daughters range from middle school to college level and graduate, and there's a couple of inherent dangers for each cohort. And the first is elementary school. These are the innocent years when the security concerns are not so much originating from your children, from the people outside, and they're pretty much in a safe zone under close supervision. One of the things you should have, if you have not established with your children already, is a safe word. Something that if you can't make it to school to pick them up, that somebody else would be able to tell them. Something that only would be known to your child and discuss it with them. If somebody comes for you, one of the other family members or friend, and says the safe word, then feel free to go with them. Make the safe word known to the school. Let the people on your pickup list or contact list be known to the school. So if you or your husband or significant other have an emergency, that someone will be able to pick up the child. Allergies. I've seen far too many people die from allergies, especially at this young age. They don't know that they have allergies. They haven't experienced a ton of different foods, or allergies can just erupt over a short period of time, and the parents may not be aware of allergies. Talk to your children about allergies. Some of these symptoms are closed throat, difficulty breathing, difficulty communicating, fever. And this is something, if you see some warning signs, you need to tell your child to tell somebody immediately. You need to tell caregivers to look for signs of allergies and get somebody to the hospital as soon as possible. One of the most, disheartening things I've ever seen is a 20-year-old that I was aware of that had a peanut allergy and ate a chocolate candy that contained peanuts in it and passed away by the time they got to the hospital. There's somebody that had a known allergy and just people with them or around them didn't respond quick enough. Something else to be aware of is bullying for elementary school children. Very difficult situation for people to deal with. Bullying, you need to speak to your child and tell them if there's anything that concerns them at school where it's not a safe zone or with their friends in the playground, they need to let you know immediately. And with the upcoming spring season, hopefully the upcoming spring season, I'm wearing my outerwear because it's snowing here in New York, but when the spring season comes, we have to worry about pool safety. Again, it only takes a few seconds for someone to be left unattended and stumble into a pool, and the results can be devastating. I'm sure we all know somebody that had this occur to them or heard of somebody. So just be extra cognizant. If you need to put up a fence around your pool, in my pool, I have a fence around the perimeter. It's certainly not attractive, but I'm more concerned with the safety aspect than the attractiveness of the backyard, and it's worked well so far. Now we move into middle school. Middle school is a little more challenging for parents because we're dealing with sleepovers, we're dealing with self-harm issues, we're dealing with cell phone issues, we're dealing with alcohol, we're dealing with internet, and we're even dealing with pornography. Yes, pornography, and I'll get into that. First is the self-harm. There's a phenomenon going around now with middle school children, 12, 14, where they're crying for attention, looking for some gratification through self-harm. My experience in suicide prevention, and I have a great deal, is that if somebody wants to kill themselves, they're generally not going to exhibit the classic signs. You wouldn't even know it. You'd just be cutting them down or dealing with them. So it may not be the case, and I'm not a forensic expert, but if your child is exhibiting any signs of self-harm, you need to get them treated by a professional immediately. Do not take this lightly. Do not try to manage it yourself, and get them into people that specialize in something like this. Of course, it can be stigmatizing and embarrassing, but not as embarrassing or stigmatizing as the loss of a child. So deal with this overtly, quickly, and make sure that it's managed. Cell phones. With the advent of technology, more tweens are asking for cell phones. With cell phones comes a lot of responsibility. I don't want to scare anybody out there in TV land, but the photograph that your child takes with the cell phone and posts it on social media, that photograph can be interpreted and give the exact location where the photograph was taken. So if somebody wants to track your child, all they have to do is identify the photo, run a program on it, and I have a video and I teach on this. It probably takes somebody that knows what they're doing about 3 minutes to identify the location of your child and when the photo was taken. And if photos are taken frequently, then they'll know where your child is. So the phone will reveal their location. I talked about pornography. A lot of tween girls and teen girls are now sexting photos of themselves across the by cell phone. This is something that can land somebody in jail and labeled as a sexual predator if anyone looks at these photos of underage girls. So keep in mind that this is going on in schools. I deal with parents at least once a month where someone comes to my attention or brings this to my attention that their child has done or received, and this needs to be addressed immediately. How would I address it? I would try to find out who it was sent to. I would speak to those people, ask them not to distribute it and destroy it in their phones. I would speak to my teen, and I would speak to the school if they were involved to make them aware of the phenomenon. Yes, it's embarrassing, but something like this needs to be stopped immediately. Drugs. And I know people will have their own perspectives on drugs. I can only tell you what goes on here in our own neighborhood here in Long Island. Just last week, the police and the ambulance responded to somebody who was overdosed during the daytime during a school day. And this is somebody who is a sophomore. I know of another case the week before where somebody was caught dealing drugs in the school. There's a good portion of people that are doing narcotics in the schools, and we have to be aware of that. We can't be ignorant to the fact that our children may be experimenting and using drugs. So what do we do about that? We get them involved in sporting activities, scholastic activities. We speak about this frequently and talk about the inherent pitfalls of drug use, show them examples in the paper. I frequently clip out things in the paper and discuss them with my children at dinner or at other times that we meet. And just paying attention to some of the warning signs. Everyone likes to say, not my child, it's not going to happen, I have a good kid. There are plenty of dead good kids because they didn't pay attention to some warning signs or they were ignorant. The next thing is vehicle safety. It just makes common sense that these young, inexperienced drivers, and I use the word experience, will have a greater coincidence of having an accident because of their lack of experience. What can we do to minimize that? We can make sure that our children only get in a car. My rule is that my children are not allowed to get in a vehicle with somebody unless they've been driving for at least a year. So they've gotten some of the mistakes out of their system and they got some experience, and that I've witnessed their driving, that either my wife or myself in our neighborhood or somebody else has seen or witnessed their driving and made sure they have good driving habits, stopping at stop signs, not pushing red lights, not going fast, and things like that. With vehicle driving, I try to keep my kids in a light colored vehicle because it just makes sense statistically that a light colored vehicle is easier to see than a dark vehicle, especially at night. So the rate of accidents in a light colored vehicle is much less than that in a dark colored vehicle. Their own driving habits. Before I let any of my children drive a vehicle that I'm providing for them, they have to change a tire on their own. Not that they will ever probably have to do that, but I want to make sure that they have the ability to do that, or if somebody else is going to help them, if a first responder comes on the scene, that they'll be able to steer the first responder to where the tire is, where the jack is, to make sure that all the parts needed to change the tire are in the car, and with some familiarity. With that goes flares. I can't tell you how many times through the years we've all heard of cars parked on the side of the road disabled. Somebody is not paying attention, speeding down the highway, and rams right into that car, thinking it's in a lane. So what I do is make sure that my children not only have flares in their car, but they also have to activate one and know how to use it. So there's familiarity. If it makes any sense, practicing some of these things improves their confidence when this happens and gains a familiarity. Also pulling the car over as far off the road as possible. Now, sure, if you have the luxury, when your car breaks down, that's great. Most medians are 15 to 20 feet and pull it as far to the right as possible. But if you don't have that luxury, that's where the flares come in, and that's why you try to pull it to a safe zone, even if you ruin the rim. The next thing is alcohol. A lot of the teens now are drinking in high school. They're putting vodka in water bottles. I just supervised a senior trip for my daughter, and I made it very clear. I had a parents' meeting before they went on the senior trip. I told them I'm going to be looking for warning signs when kids get on the bus, and anybody that has alcohol or looks like they've ingested alcohol will be prohibited from the bus and will keep their deposit. Seemed to work out pretty good. Not only did the kids enjoy the trip to the Empire State Building and some other things that I've scheduled for them, but I was also very comfortable that there was no alcohol on the bus, and the kids knew beforehand the expectations for inebriating alcohol on the bus. The next is college. So now our kids have graduated, and in a lot of cases they're going off to a school far and away, or at least a car ride where they have a dorm. One of the things that I do when I go to hotels with my kids, and especially in a college setting, I'll go and I'll meet the security team and I'll get familiar with the expectations of security so I can improve my confidence level and get their contact information should I need them on a particular night. The next thing I'll do is go over fire exits and firefighting procedures with my daughter. Not that she's going to fight fires, but she needs to know where the hoses are, where the fire exits are, and make sure they're clear of debris, and give it a dry run so when that instance happens, when she does get a call in the middle of the night that there's a fire, she'll be able to execute the plan that we've already discussed about on a moment's notice. The next thing is traveling in groups. Unfortunately, if you recall, about 6 or 7 years back, there was a John Jay college student named Met St. Gillian. She was killed basically because she was alone. She was out with friends drinking at a place called the Falls Bar in Manhattan, and her friends let her leave by herself, and she stumbled out of the club. One of the bouncers that worked the place saw her stumbling out alone, put her in the car, and she was found several days later bound and gagged and killed and burned, unfortunately, in Brooklyn. And based on my experience, it was because she left alone. Criminals and those with malintent look for an easy target. What I tell my children all the time is never travel alone, travel in groups, make sure that you're not left behind, make sure you don't leave early, make sure you don't go to your car by yourself. So it's very important that you travel together in groups. That's probably the number one tip that I'll give you today. When my daughter gets in a cab, what I do is ask her to take a photo of the medallion number on top of the car and text that to me, and then let the cab driver know that she just took a photo of the medallion and gave it to her dad because he likes to track the cabs. There's probably a great less likelihood that cab driver who knows that the medallion photo was taken and sent to dad is going to do any self-harm. He'll look for the next girl who stumbles into the cab and it doesn't look like she's aware of her surrounding. So good tip for that. Cell phone tracking. You can institute a program on your children now so you can track their whereabouts, where they are. So if anything runs into an issue, just check on your device and you can try to pinpoint their location and steer police to their direction. Stalkers. I'll end the program on stalkers because especially young ladies, there are people that are enamored by their beauty, have psychotic idolations, and try to text them, email them, get in contact with them, and then when they're rebuffed, they may take it to the next level, follow you, stay outside your house, and you don't know somebody's propensity for violence unless you get a good idea of who they are. So don't take any chances with this. Tell your children if there's people that seem to take a greater interest in them than normal, to bring that to your attention right away, and it needs to be addressed. I just helped out a colleague this past week in something like that, where somebody keeps haunting her on social media from a former relationship from 3 years ago. And when people's life deteriorates or the situation deteriorates, you don't know how desperate they're going to get and what they might do. So you have to take every threat as real and viable, and escalate it up to whoever needs to know, whether it be local law enforcement, your co-workers, your employees, your supervisor, or something like that. So children are a most valuable resource. I hope the tips that I gave you today help protect and keep your children safe, as I try to do with mine. There's no perfect system. I know we'd all like to lock them up and keep them in our houses under a blanket forever, but that's not the reality. So just practicing good security strategies with our children. I will never let them drive out on a rainy night that's pouring in snowy conditions, unless I feel they have enough confidence and experience to handle those conditions. So just make reasonable choices with your children. Don't take a chance, and when you have to make a decision, err on the side of err on the side of safety. So for Mike Blanchard 40 and the rest of the Arrow team, we want you to get Arrow, get secure, and have a safe and wonderful week.